After the war, much of the gold that was stolen by the Nazis was found, but there's still millions of dollars of gold missing, and that's the focus of our investigation. And I think we need to get on the ground and begin our investigation right here in Germany.
For 80 years, a Nazi armored train lay hidden beneath Polish forests, rumored to carry immense wealth. In 2015, treasure hunters claimed to find it, and the world waited as a sealed underground chamber was opened. But beyond the wall, there was no gold, only haunting evidence of erased lives.
Oh, there is a tunnel. Look at that! Wait, what is that?
Wózek górniczy.
It's a what?
It's a minecart.
And secrets never meant to surface. The discovery sparked sudden silence and official shutdowns, leaving historians questioning what was truly found. What could be so disturbing that every investigation stopped? Some treasures aren't lost for fortune. They're buried to conceal the darkest truths of war, hidden beneath layers of fear and time. The mysterious disappearance. In the final months of World War II, as the Soviet Red Army rapidly advanced westward, an armored train reportedly carrying vast amounts of Nazi loot disappeared without a trace near the Owl Mountains in Poland. Witnesses at the time described a heavily guarded train, unlike any seen before, loaded with crates stamped with official insignia. The local population recalled watching the train enter a heavily forested, mountainous region, only for it to seemingly vanish into thin air. No official records tracked its arrival or departure, and no survivors ever came forward to explain what happened to the cargo. The train's cargo was rumored to include not just gold, but priceless artworks, jewelry, and valuables stolen from occupied countries. These stories circulated quietly for decades, passed down by locals who lived near the enigmatic tracks that curved into the mountains. Some recounted glimpses of crates cracked open just enough to reveal glimmers of gold or wrapped canvases hidden under layers of dust. Despite the fascination, serious historical inquiry struggled to find concrete evidence to support these claims. Maps from the period hinted at railway lines that mysteriously stopped or were erased. Enter the war, deepening the mystery. The elusive nature of this train sparked only occasional explorations, most ending in disappointment. Treasure hunters equipped with metal detectors scoured the region, but found little more than old tracks and collapsed tunnels. The region's dangerous terrain and complicated history only added to the challenge. For years, this tale remained locked in local folklore, overshadowed by the larger horrors and upheavals of the war. Yet, the question lingered: what really happened to the train and its secret cargo? Adding to the intrigue was one partly verified confession from a dying German soldier in 1975. He claimed intimate knowledge of an operation involving the train's concealment, describing how it was sealed inside a tunnel with explosives. Though he could not guide anyone to the exact site before his death, his story fueled hopes that the truth might one day surface. Despite this, the legend persisted without definitive proof, waiting in the shadows for the right moment to be unearthed. The Polish forests and mountains seemed almost to guard this secret, hiding the train beneath layers of earth and silence. Historical records of the retreating Nazi forces showed frantic attempts to destroy evidence and transport valuables to unknown locations. The possibility that an armored train vanished in 1945, laden with stolen riches, challenged historians to balance skepticism with curiosity. What exactly was buried in the depths of the Owl Mountains, and why was it never fully uncovered? This disappearance is at the heart of an enduring enigma. It suggests more than just a lost cache of treasure. It hints at unspoken stories and secrets carefully sealed away as the war ended. The significance of the train goes beyond the loot itself, touching on darker aspects of history that some would prefer to keep hidden. Soon, this narrative will invite us to look deeper into the region's secret infrastructure and the horrors woven into its tunnels. Before long, the mystery drew attention back to the very place where the train reportedly vanished, an area shaped by deadly wartime project that few dared to explore. Project Riese and hidden tunnels. Beneath the Owl Mountains, lies an immense and labyrinthine network of underground tunnels and chambers known as Project Riese. Created between 1943 and 1945, the project was a massive construction effort utilizing forced labor from concentration camp prisoners. Thousands worked to exhaustion and death as they carved over 8 kilometers of subterranean passages into the mountains. These tunnels were intended for secret military use, but their true purpose remains shrouded in secrecy, with many unfinished sections mysteriously sealed off before completion. The scale and intensity of Project Riese were staggering. Prisoners endured brutal conditions while constructing colossal underground chambers designed to withstand bombings and conceal valuable cargo or operations. Some tunnels were flooded or collapsed without explanation, and vast areas remain unexplored due to extreme danger. The harsh reality of forced labor and death casts a grim shadow over the entire region, reminding us how wartime desperation fueled ruthless exploitation. The fact that Project Riese is in the same place as the lost train makes its presence very disturbing. The first and the last places where the armored vehicle was thought to be seen are the same area. The tunnels are a complicated network of underground passages under the same forests and mountains, which means that the train could have taken refuge there. It is said that the hidden shafts and railway sidings lead directly into the mountain interiors, and this is quite suspicious since it coincides with the routes where the train disappeared. The very secretive atmosphere of these installations supports the idea that the train was not merely lost, but actually hidden. The underground labyrinth was not only a construction site, but also a castle meant to be secret. Many tunnels were suddenly closed off, and no proper records state the reasons behind it. The place was so hazardous that the nearby people shunned it, and its silent danger was multiplied by years of neglect. The history of Project Riese interlinks very tightly with the concealed Nazi maneuvers that were not limited to the front line, and that revealed layers of war crimes and hidden agendas. A lot of the network that was built post-war remains out of bounds because of the weak structure or the unavailability of the places for exploration. The inaccessible condition of the tunnels has been a source of speculation about the hidden items of great value that are still there, frozen in time. It is believed that the laborers who were forced to work in these tunnels endured great hardships and even died in the process, thus creating a dual picture of the place, one of a graveyard for the treasures and darker artifacts. The whole underground world adds to the mystery of the armored train's fate and the surrounding atrocities. The first thing that comes to mind when we talk about Project Riese is the reminder of the brutal chapter that was rarely seen. The large-scale industrial operation of the Nazis in which they conducted their activities underground. It also implies a stark setting for the lost train's destiny, an embodiment of avarice, dominion, and suffering of the people intertwined in a remote mountain wilderness. From dark tunnels below the surface to whispered stories above ground, the legend persisted among those living nearby. Decades of folklore and sightings. For generations, residents near WWII and the Owl Mountains whispered tales about a strange armored train protected by armed guards and bristling with treasure. These stories transformed into local folklore, with children daring each other to venture close to abandoned tunnels rumored to be train entrances. Testimonies trickled in from retired workers and villagers who recalled eerie noises underground, the rumble of unseen machinery, or glimpses of railway tracks abruptly ending where nature reclaimed them. Such accounts lent a grain of credibility to the legend, though most remained skeptical. There were also first-hand claims of encounters with the train during its last known movements. A retired railroad worker recounted how his father guarded a train as it entered a mountain tunnel in early 1945, never to emerge again. Similarly, stories of secret crates loaded under strict supervision added vivid detail to a narrative that could have been dismissed as imagination. These oral histories kept the mystery alive, bridging the gap between fact and folklore. The 1975 confession of an elderly German man further stirred belief in the train's existence. On his deathbed, he described in unsettling detail the soldiers involved in hiding the train, the use of explosives to seal it inside a tunnel, and the high security surrounding the operation. Although investigators could not verify his story or locate the site, it elevated the legend from myth to a tantalizing possibility grounded in wartime realities. Despite the allure, many professionals approached the stories with caution, unable to confirm much beyond anecdotal evidence. Organized expeditions usually ended without finding concrete proof, leaving the train's story in limbo. Yet, the persistence of these tales, passed down with conviction, suggested something more than coincidence or fantasy. The evergreen nature of this legend kept the mystery alive in public consciousness. This folklore is so intertwined with larger themes of loss and secrecy in the region, reflecting a community's memory of war's darker corners. The train became a symbol not only of hidden riches, but also of vanished histories and unacknowledged suffering. The mix of hope and dread surrounding the tale captured the imaginations of treasure hunters and historians alike. As time passed, skepticism grew, but never fully extinguished the idea that the train might still be out there, buried or concealed in ways few could imagine. The persistent local testimonies raised important questions about what has been overlooked or deliberately hidden. Could the truth still be uncovered beneath layers of earth and silence? Such enduring stories set the stage for the modern searches that would bring global attention and revive an international obsession with the lost Nazi gold train. Each whispered memory and secret rumor led treasure hunters and researchers back to the mountainous landscape, where history and legend blur into one. Confirmed Nazi loot discoveries. The legend of the lost Nazi gold train might sound like a fanciful tale, but history shows that vast Nazi treasure hoards hidden in secret locations are very real. One of the most dramatic confirmations came in April 1945, when two French civilians tipped off American forces about a salt mine near Merkers in Germany. This mine, originally just for extracting salt, had been repurposed by the Nazis into a hidden vault to store stolen wealth. When soldiers investigated, they discovered 8,000 gold bars stacked like cordwood, alongside 3,000 bags filled with gold coins and crates of foreign currency from virtually every occupied nation. The findings did not stop there. Hidden deeper inside the mine were priceless paintings stolen from Europe's finest museums, sculptures that had been lost to the war, and cultural treasures mourned by entire nations. The value of the gold alone reached an estimated $5 billion in today's money, but the emotional weight of what was found was far heavier. Scattered among the riches were personal effects: rings ripped from fingers, watches torn from wrists, even gold dental fillings removed from victims of concentration camps and melted down into bars. What made this discovery so chilling was the industrial scale and brutal efficiency with which these items were gathered and concealed. It was not simply a cache of valuables, but a horrifying ledger of systematic plunder backed by human suffering. General Dwight Eisenhower personally visited the site to oversee the inventory and ensure the world knew the scope of what had been hidden. Photographers documented every square inch, making it clear this was no myth, but a stark reality. This monumental find shattered the skepticism surrounding Nazi treasure stories, proving that stolen wealth had been concealed in remote and unexpected locations as the Third Reich neared defeat. Yet, the Merkers mine was only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Estimates today place the total wartime plunder at an astonishing $580 billion in current currency, with less than 20% recovered. That leaves the vast majority of this hidden wealth unaccounted for, fueling decades of searches and speculation. Beyond salt mines, some treasure reportedly ended up underwater. As Allied forces closed in, crates of valuables were allegedly dumped into lakes like Austria's Lake Toplitz. This particular lake is notable not simply for its depth, plunging over 300 feet, but for its unique chemistry. Below 100 feet, the oxygen vanishes entirely, preserving any sunken artifacts in nearly perfect condition. Divers attempting to explore the lake have faced deadly hazards, including treacherous logs and toxic gas pockets. One of the factors that makes these underground places even more chilling is the rumor that not only the fake British banknotes, but also the whole crates of them were buried beneath Lake Toplitz. The banknotes were part of Operation Bernhard, a plan of the Germans to make the British economy go crazy by using high-quality counterfeits. As the fate of the war changed, however, the authorities worried about the enemy getting the evidence. Thus, they opted for throwing it into the lake, which was already freezing. On the other hand, the never-ending lost cargo has given rise to almost mythical tales. Walter Rauff, a military official in North Africa in 1943, was in charge of the confiscation of more than 6 tons of gold and other valuables belonging to Jewish families. The treasure was put on a ship destined for Italy and then Germany, but it got lost in the middle of the sea. There were no manifests or receipts left that could testify to the existence of that cargo that simply disappeared, which only added to the mystery. This silence raises the question: how much more was actually lost or deliberately hidden? One of the most moving tales is that of the Amber Room. This splendid chamber made of amber panels and gold leaf was created in the 18th century and was called the Eighth Wonder of the World. The Nazis, during their invasion of the Soviet Union, looted the Amber Room among other treasures. After the war, in 1944, the room was gone. Some people thought it was destroyed. Others believed it was evacuated with ships that sank, and still others claimed it was hidden in secret bunkers. Many expeditions have been attempted to find it, including a Polish drilling in 2017. However, no definite evidence has been discovered as yet. These confirmations of discoveries simply and clearly prove that the treasure tales are in no way just myths. There was a massive and systematic hiding of stolen wealth that continues to puzzle the researchers. If once huge hoards were hidden, it raises the question, what else is still lying under the surface, waiting to be found? This doubt created the ground for the dramatic statements that came up near the Owl Mountains of Poland decades later. While incredible finds like Merker's lent credibility to treasure tales, the notion of uncovering something similar in the Owl Mountains reignited global fascination and hope. Early 2015, claims and media frenzy. In August 2015, 2 men reignited the world's fascination with the legendary Nazi gold train when they announced its discovery beneath Polish soil near the town of Wałbrzych. Piotr Koper, a construction expert skilled in ground analysis, and Andreas Richter, a German amateur historian of wartime railways, claimed to have located the train after 2 years of careful research and radar scanning beneath the Owl Mountains, exactly where legend and historical maps converged. Their data appeared convincing: a 100-meter-long formation buried about 9 meters underground, showing radar reflections shaped like a train with multiple cars. The symmetry and alignment matched a wartime railway siding missing from post-war maps. Convinced of their find, they filed a legal claim, seeking the 10% finder's reward allowed under Polish law. Excitement soared when Poland's deputy culture minister declared he was 99% certain the gold train had been found. Within days, Wałbrzych became the epicenter of global attention. Reporters, camera crews, and treasure hunters flooded the area, booking every hotel and campsite. The story dominated headlines, fueling an estimated $200 million in global publicity. The Polish military quickly secured the site, citing possible wartime explosives and safety concerns. Armed guards patrolled fenced-off zones, while officials balanced caution with mounting public anticipation. Around the world, millions waited for the long-rumored treasure, believed to contain gold, art, and Nazi loot, to finally emerge from the ground. In November, 2 authorized teams began official surveys: Koper and Richter's group, and a scientific team from the Krakow Mining Academy. The academy's experts, armed with state-of-the-art instruments, analyzed the same area and released results that stunned the public. According to their findings, no metallic structures existed underground. The radar reflections, they said, came from glacial rock formations, not train cars. To them, the supposed train was a geological illusion. But Koper and Richter refused to accept this. They insisted the Academy's analysis was flawed and that their own data was accurate. Convinced they had found something real, they secured private funding and launched a full-scale excavation in August 2016. 64 specialists, including engineers, archaeologists, geologists, chemists, and even a military demolitions expert, joined the effort, turning Wałbrzych into a live global spectacle. For 7 tense days, heavy machinery dug deep into untouched soil as cameras broadcast every movement. The world waited for the moment history would surface, but nothing appeared. No rails, no tunnel, no train. When the dig ended, all that remained was dirt and disappointment. The gold train had vanished back into myth. As media attention faded and Wałbrzych's frenzy cooled, another group began a quieter investigation far to the south. Near the village of Lubałka, close to the Czech border, researchers using satellite soil analysis and advanced radar detected faint traces of a vanished railway siding, erased from all post-war maps. Their silent, methodical search would soon uncover what the world's cameras had missed. The revived hope and intense attention that followed the 2015 claims laid bare not only a hunger for discovery, but also the complexities hidden within the Owl Mountain's depths, the very landscape where history's darkest secrets and lost treasures hang in uneasy balance. Official investigations and contradictions. After the dramatic 2015 announcement of the supposed Nazi gold train near Wałbrzych, official investigations began amid worldwide fascination. 2 teams were authorized to conduct non-invasive scans, one led by Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter, the treasure hunters who made the claim, and the other from the Krakow Mining Academy, a respected geological institute with advanced technology and decades of field experience. Their mission: to confirm or disprove the presence of a buried train beneath the Owl Mountains. The Academy's findings were disappointing for the hopeful hunters. Their scans revealed no metallic structures resembling train cars. Instead, they concluded the radar reflections were natural formations, glacial rock deposits that, under simpler instruments, could mimic the symmetrical patterns of human-made objects. This geological explanation directly contradicted the treasure hunters' bold assertions and cast serious doubt over the entire legend. Still, Koper and Richter stood by their discovery. They argued that their equipment was sound and that the Academy's interpretation was incomplete. Drawing on years of research into wartime rail operations and archival maps, they insisted the signals indicated something deliberately hidden. Convinced the scientific establishment was overlooking crucial details, they resolved to excavate. With private funding secured, a large-scale dig was organized in August 2016. 64 specialists, engineers, geologists, archaeologists, chemists, and a military demolitions expert joined the operation, costing over $116,000. Media coverage was intense, with cameras capturing every moment as the site near Wałbrzych became a global sensation. For 7 days, heavy machinery tore into the hillside. Each new layer unearthed heightened anticipation that an armored train laden with Nazi treasure would soon emerge. Spectators and reporters waited breathlessly for a glimmer of metal or a tunnel entrance, something to prove the legend true. Nevertheless, there was nothing that showed up at all. No evidence of any sort, like tracks, tunnels, or even train cars. The end of the excavation brought forth only dirt and disappointment. This failure was a major setback for the myth, and most observers decided that the Nazi gold train was nothing but a legend proved wrong by science and shovels. However, when the world was paying attention only to Wałbrzych's public disappointment, another secret effort was going on. A private research team, away from the spotlight, was discreetly doing its own investigation several hundred kilometers away. Their investigation, located by the small village of Lubałka, near the Czech border, consulted with maps of the wartime and post-war periods that showed discrepancies. Railway sidings that existed in 1944, but later disappeared. The use of satellites to capture images of the area showed subtle differences in the ground surface that matched the old railway lines, thus providing proof of deliberate covering after the year 1945. In contrast to the unsuccessful digging, this group stayed low-key and used the most up-to-date satellite and radar analysis. Their silent, systematic method and the discovery they were on the verge of making would soon be the cause of a major shift. As plans formed to excavate this challenging terrain, it became clear secrets still lurked beneath the quiet earth. Secrets waiting patiently for discoverers more patient and precise than those before. The quiet discovery. Near Lubałka. The private research group working near Lubałka approached their search with precision and cutting-edge technology unavailable to earlier explorers. Using satellite-based soil analysis and ground-penetrating radar, they scanned the area methodically, far from the chaos of the public search in Wałbrzych. Their quiet, media-free operation allowed them to uncover what others had missed. Their attention focused on a collapsed embankment, long dismissed by past teams because of unstable terrain. Historical maps revealed a wartime railway siding that mysteriously vanished from post-war records, as if erased intentionally. Satellite imagery confirmed the presence of disturbed soil, consistent with filled-in rail lines, strong evidence of a deliberate concealment. Under careful supervision, excavation began. Beneath the debris, they uncovered an armored metallic frame reinforced with riveted steel, clearly built for transporting high-value sensitive cargo. Material analysis indicated it had been buried since 1945 and sealed intentionally. The preservation was remarkable, as though this site had been frozen in time. Inside the structure, the team found exactly what legend had described. Crates bore Reichsbank markings and Nazi insignia containing gold bars, jewelry, and foreign currency. Wrapped canvases appeared to be stolen artworks, possibly linked to documented wartime loot. Personal items suggested systematic confiscation from victims, confirming that the train had carried more than wealth. It had carried stolen lives. Each crate was catalogued, photographed, and sealed for documentation. The artifacts' value stretched beyond money. They filled crucial gaps in the historical record of Nazi looting and disappearance. What began as a quest for treasure had become a historical revelation of immense gravity. Then, as the excavation moved to the train's rear, the tone changed. A welded, handleless wall sealed from the inside appeared, a chamber meant to stay forever closed. The team worked for 48 hours, cutting through the dense metal. When light finally reached the interior, silence overtook the site. Inside were not treasures but dozens of wooden crates stacked with precision. Each was numbered and labeled. Within them lay worn civilian clothing, children's shoes, suitcases with faded names, envelopes in German script, and files filled with handwritten names and numbers. There were eyeglasses and bundles of human hair, items stripped from victims before their deaths. The team realized they had uncovered not treasure, but evidence, personal effects belonging to people deliberately erased from history. The cold, meticulous organization of the chamber reflected an industrial effort to erase identity while preserving proof of annihilation. The discovery near Lubałka shattered the myth of a gold train. What the team found was not a hoard of riches, but a chamber of memory, a hidden archive of suffering buried beneath layers of steel, earth, and silence. The legend of lost gold gave way to something far heavier, the truth of lives stolen and concealed. The success of this quiet, methodical search near Lubałka contrasts starkly with the public spectacle of failure elsewhere, reminding us that sometimes truth waits patiently in shadows, favoring the careful over the hurried. The sealed chamber's dark secret. As the excavation team dug deeper into the final train car near Lubałka, they uncovered a thick, reinforced wall unlike any other section of the train. It was sealed from the inside with industrial precision. No doors, no handles, no seams. This wasn't meant for storage. It was meant to stay hidden forever. The engineers quickly realized this chamber contained something more guarded than gold or art. It took nearly 2 days of delicate cutting before they could remove part of the wall. When light pierced through, what they saw silenced the entire crew. Inside were dozens of meticulously stacked wooden crates, each numbered and labeled with exacting care. But what they contained was not treasure. It was human history frozen in horror. Inside the crates were personal belongings, worn clothes, children's shoes, old suitcases with faded names, envelopes written in German, and files filled with handwritten lists of names and identification numbers. Hundreds of eyeglasses and bundles of human hair were neatly catalogued and preserved. This was no treasure hoard, it was evidence. The remains of people were systematically erased. The site's mood shifted instantly. What began as a thrilling treasure hunt turned into a chilling revelation. The team understood that the Nazis had hidden not riches, but the proof of their crimes. Every item represented a life extinguished, and the organization of the chamber reflected a terrifying efficiency in documenting annihilation. The very moment the site was found, almost instantly, it became inaccessible. The workers' and archaeologists' presence was no longer needed. Their notes and samples were taken, and a new security team took possession of the area. The unmarked trucks came at night, loading the crates and disappearing before sunrise. The following day, the site was shielded by tarps and fences, which were under surveillance 24 hours a day. It has been reported that the responsibility for the site was transferred to the Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage, but afterward, there were no public updates. The journalists, who had previously been pursuing the Nazi gold train story, found their questions unanswered. Aerial images of the area showed the closed-off tunnels and the erection of new fences. The global media interest that had surrounded the claims of 2015 vanished instantly. The sudden silence absolutely only increased suspicion. The experts started to consider that the gold was never the actual discovery. It was merely the diversion. The matter found behind that welded wall was of much greater weight than any treasure. It was a record of erasure, a truth too painful and politically explosive to be exposed. The Owl Mountains still keep a lot of tunnels from Project Riese, the remnants of Nazi engineering, and secrecy hidden. However, history exemplified that some walls had never been constructed for the purpose of protecting gold, but to conceal guilt. Even these days, every time the ground is stirred up and pieces of the past emerge, the same cycle takes place: discovery, denial, and silence. Because what is underneath is not gold, it is evidence. And the truth is, once it is brought to the surface, it is worth more than gold. The lost Nazi gold train was real, but the greatest discovery wasn't treasure. It was the haunting proof of lives erased and secrets buried deep. History's darkest shadows still linger beneath the earth, guarded by silence and time. If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into mysteries that shape our world. And when you're done, watch the next video appearing on your screen. It uncovers the chilling secret that rescuers almost left behind.